Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 23 of my C# video tutorial. In this part, we're going to focus in on the document API, and we're specifically going to cover the FlowDocumentReader, FlowDocumentPageViewer, FlowDocumentScrollViewer, and RichTextBox. And what we're going to do is use the document API layout managers, these guys right here, to work with formatted documents using the XML Paper Specification, or XPS. And to simplify that, that's just going to allow us to create robust documents like PDFs. They're going to work in much the same way. And so I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're continuing on. We're going to use the same exact code we had before. Let's increase this font size. Okay, there we are. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another tab up here. I'm just going to right click inside of there and come in here and click on Add Tab Item. And then I'm just going to start creating some stuff here. So we have our grid background. I'm going to get rid of that, and then I'm going to close off my grid. So grid, there we go, and there we go. And let's go and give this a name that's going to make a little bit more sense. I'm going to call this Flow Reader. And this specifically is going to reference the FlowDocumentReader, and it's read-only. However, it's going to allow us to zoom as well as search inside of our document. And likewise, I'm also going to cover the RichTextBox later on, which is going to allow us to display editable data in a Flow document, and also the FlowDocumentPageViewer, which is going to show pages but not zoom or search, and the ScrollViewer, which is going to allow us to scroll. So I'm just going to show you examples. So I'm going to come in here first, and I'm going to go FlowDocumentReader. And then there's a whole bunch of things you can display here. So we'll have the viewing mode. And in this situation, I'm going to have this set for page. You're also going to be able to use scroll as well as to page. And I'm also going to say that I want find to be enabled. So that's going to allow them to search through our document. I'm also going to define that I want the page view to be enabled. So let's make that true as well. These are all defaults, but I'm just showing you them. So if you want to shut them off. Are we going to be able to scroll through this? I'm also going to set that for true. And then you can set them for false on your own just to see how that changes things. And also we will be able to display them as two pages on the screen at once, which is basically not really two pages. It's going to be two columns. And I guess that's pretty much all the different things we can do with that. So let's just close that off. Then inside of here, we're going to be able to put all sorts of different things. Now, I'm going to not make this the neatest thing on earth just so that I can cover a lot of things. Now, inside of here, we're going to put a flow document. And now what we'll be able to do is come in and throw in, say, a paragraph. And we can throw that there. And let's say we want to throw some lorem ipsum inside of there. We can do that. And you can see it's displaying up there. And whenever I run it, you'll get to see exactly what it looks like. We're also going to be able to define lists inside of here. And how you do that is just go list. And then you're going to have all of your list items. So list item. And then inside of your list item, let's go and let's throw another paragraph inside of here. And here I'll just go item 1, and you can see they're popping up here as I'm displaying them. And then we can do a whole bunch more of these different guys. You just copy that, paste that in there, and do as many as you'd like. So 2 and 3. I can also go in here and throw in images and combo boxes and a whole bunch of things like that. To do that, I am going to create a block UI container. And then inside of this, I'm going to create a stack panel, which is going to, of course, stack everything inside of here. So everything I put is just going to stack horizontally on our screen. So we can go and get an image, and I went and grabbed one ahead of time, and you're just going to go source, and I put it over here in my resources directory, like there, open this up, and it's called Turtle Ping. So we can just do that. We go source like this, and then if we want to reference the resources directory, we just go resources and turtle, and it is a ping file. And of course, you're going to be able to come in here and define how big you want it to be. I'll just have its height be set for 64, and then let's close that off. So that's going to flip. There you can see there is our turtle. You're also going to be able to put combo boxes inside of here. So let's say I want to do something like throw in a label. And you're going to be able to do things like change your text. Foreground is how you change your text, by the way, if I had never talked about that previously. And we could do something like favorite phone And then after our label, then throw in a combo box, which is going to allow us to select multiple different options. So combo box, and then you're going to say combo box item, and you're going to be able to say things like is selected. I'm just trying to cover a whole bunch of different things here as quickly as possible. And then you could throw something like Android inside of there, and let's go and get another combo box item. There it is, and close that off. And then inside of this one, we could say something like Apple, and then we could do another one. Is BlackBerry still making phones? I don't know. Let's just throw BlackBerry inside of there. And I don't know if that's one word or two. And you can see the combo boxes are automatically being generated up inside of there. We're also going to be able to come in here and do radio buttons. So let's say that I want to put another label inside of here. Do so, and foregrounds. Let's go and change the color again. Let's change it to red. And we'll say something like favorite color. And don't worry about the little errors that it's giving me up there. And let's come in and create our radio button. I'm going to put that in another stack panel. And then inside of here, we can go radio button, and we can put a whole bunch of different options. Of course, it's automatically only going to allow one of these options to be selected at a time. So we can have this be blue, and we can have this be green. And whenever I run this, you'll be able to see them. Let's throw in another label inside of here that is going to ask for a name. So we'll put your name, and we don't need to do anything with the color there. And we could throw in a text box, text box, to allow them to enter their name inside of there. And we could say name like that is going to show up inside of the text box. And let's just close off the stack panel and everything else we have here. Let's say we also wanted to come in and throw in an empty line in this situation. How we could do so is go paragraph like that, and that's going to work just like a regular old empty line. We could also create tables. So let's go and create a table. And how you define a table is you're going to define how many columns you want. So I'm going to say column, table columns, and then you're just going to put a table column in here for every table column you want to be able to represent. And let's just save that right there and do this instead. And we'll do a copy on this and paste in 2 more of those guys. And then after that, you define all of your table rows. And of course, there's tons of styling options. I'm not going to get into all of them. I just want to cover as much as I can cover here as quickly as possible, just to give you an idea of the power that is provided by the document API. So we can then come in and go table row, and then put some information inside of here. We're going to say table cell, and we can change the column size of it. So we'll say column span is going to be equal to 3. And that just means it's going to take up 3 of the columns in this situation. And let's go in and let's change the background to this just to make it stand out a little bit to blue, and close that off. Then inside of here, we can do paragraph, and let's say we want to have a little bit of padding inside of, this is inside of the table cell. You can see it being created right here. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to change it to 10. And then inside of here, we could do something like best baseball players. And then I'm going to close that off and put table cell down here to close off my table cell. Save that and make sure this is padding with an uppercase P. And you can see best baseball players shows up inside of there. And we can come in and let's say we want to change the foreground on this to white. Now you can read best baseball players. Table row is going to close, and if we want to throw in another table row, we just go table row, and then inside of here we can define a whole bunch of more cells. So we'll say table cell, and let's have the background on this be white instead. So white, and then inside of here we'll throw another paragraph, and we'll put something like name, and then let's do a couple more of these guys. Table cell again, this is going to represent the whole entire cell. As you can see, name popped up right there. Let's do 2 more of them. For the next one, we could say something like batting average, and then this will be home runs. Okay, so you can see everything's being created, and you can just keep on going as many of those different rows as you would like. And if we go and run this, you're going to see exactly what we can do with this. And here it is. Okay, so we can click on this. And you can see I can show it as a single page. I'm going to be able to scroll through all of this different information inside of here. I'm also going to be able to perform searches. So let's say I go SINT like that. It's going to go in here and search for me. There's that. And then I can just keep going and going and going, look for more of them. Can also go and have everything divided up into 2 columns. I can go in here and create a scroll bar so you can scroll through it. And of course, all of these different guys are going to work for us. Okay? And also you're going to be able to zoom. All right, so rough overview of what we can do there. So now I want to take a look at the page viewer. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to create a new tab item. Click on that. It's going to open up this guy. Get rid of that. And let's come in here and create another grid. Of course, I can come up here, change this from tab item to page viewer or something like that. We can increase our width, of course, for our different tabs. Let's try 64, see how that works. Doesn't look like it's enough. Let's try 74, see how that works. Getting there. Let's try 80. Does that work? Yes, page viewer now shows up, and of course you could do that for this other one as well. I want to change this from grid, though. Let's get rid of that to a stack panel. Okay, and then inside of here, I want to talk about the FlowDocumentPageViewer this time. So we'll go FlowDocumentPageViewer, there it is. And let's go and we can give it a name. Let's try FD Page Viewer. We can go and give it a height. Let's try like 290. Close that off, and we'll throw a couple different things inside of here just so you can see how these work out. Let's throw a flow document inside of here to hold everything. I'm just going to have a couple different paragraphs inside of it, nothing that fancy. So I'm going to go, and of course you can use all the other things that I already showed you inside of here. Paste in some lorem ipsum, and why don't we just, I'll just make another paragraph, and there we go. And if we run that, you're just going to see that it's sort of a stripped down, easier to work with. It doesn't have all the funky stuff inside of there. So it doesn't have the search and so forth, but you're going to be able to flip through all of your pages, and you're still going to be able to come in here and zoom if you'd like to. Okay, so there's that guy. Now I'll show you the scrolling option that's also available to us. And let's just go add tab item. There that guy is. We'll just come in and change this to scroll instead. So there's scroll. Let's go and get our grid here and divide this up so that we will have space to put some components inside of here. Once again, I'm going to do a FlowDocumentScrollViewer this time. So I'm going to go FlowDocumentScrollViewer, which is an option that pops up inside of there. Once again, we're going to do a flow document to contain all of the information that we have inside of there. And I can do another paragraph just to keep this simple. So there's paragraph, and we'll just paste that inside of there. And let's go and do another paragraph just so you can get an example of that. Paste in lorem ipsum again. And then after this, we'll do something a little bit more complicated where we'll actually have the document get generated inside of there. If we click on that, you can see all it's going to do is scroll. Gets rid of all the other options. Okay, so there's another thing. So let's go in here now and let's create documents by generating them. So we'll come in, do a right click again, add tab item, bounce down here, and let's give this the name of generate. Let's go and increase the size of this a little bit. Let's see if 64 is enough. Yep, looks like that's good enough. I'm going to keep the grid layout here because that works out pretty good for me. And let's go grid. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do flow documents. And let's just use the scroll viewer here. And I'm just going to dramatically simplify this. I'm just going to give it a name because I want to dynamically load this. So I'm going to go FD scroll viewer. And then I'm going to close that out. And now I'm going to jump over into the C# code and load that dynamically. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function here. It's going to be called generateDoc, and it's going to dynamically load all that information. So let's just scroll way down here at the very bottom of the screen. And I'm going to go private void generate, doc. It's not going to receive anything. It's just going to be called and generate all that information. And I need to create a flow document like we did. That's how we have always been containing all of our information with a flow document. So I'm going to generate one here. So go new and flow document, of course. And there that is. And then you can place anything inside of here that we've previously placed inside of here. So let's just keep it simple. And let's create a paragraph. And then you're going to define inside of it what you want inside of it. So we'll go paragraph. And then you're going to define what's inside of it by going new and run. And then within quotes, you're going to put what goes in there. So you can do something really big like that, like the lorem ipsum we have there. And then we just reference the flow document that we already have there. So I'm going to go doc, and I'm going to say blocks, and I will add this paragraph block. And you can play around here and try adding all the other different components. As you can see, it's paragraph, and you can add combo boxes. You can add anything you'd like. So then I'm going to go new paragraph. You're also going to be able to come in here and define styling. And how you do that is go new, and paragraph in this situation is what I'm going to be using. Whoops. It's going to be new run. Sorry about that. And then whatever I want inside of there. So there's more lorem ipsum. And then after that, I will define the styling that I want to use for this. So let's go in here, change that to this. And then we'll say things like font size. You can see everything's popping up there as I'm typing. So I can change my font size. I can change my font style. And we'll just go, I'm just picking out just randomly whatever pops up there on the screen. So font styles, and that's going to be, let's just make it italic because that's the first thing that popped up. Whoops, keep making that little error. Let's put a comma at the end there. And why don't we do one more? If we want to do whatever the text color is, we can do that as well. And how we do that is with brushes. So brushes, and then you define what your brush color is going to be, which also conveniently pops up there on the screen. And then the last one, you don't do anything with it. And then of course, after you're done, you go and add it once again to the good old flow document that we have right here, and it's going to work. So we'll go doc and blocks, whoops, and blocks and add, and this is the new paragraph that we just defined right there. And then after that, we go and reference our scroll viewer. So scroll viewer, there it is. And document is going to be equal to doc. And there we are, did it all. Let's come back over here and you can see it's going to dynamically load that whenever we click on the generate tab. Actually, it loads it prior to that, as long as it goes here. There we are. And we can bring it over here and click on generate. And there, sure enough, are the two paragraphs we created. Okay, cool stuff. So the last thing we're going to do is work with rich text. Once again, come up here, add a new tab item. Come down here, let's just call this rich. And you can do so many things with the rich text box. I'm going to show you just a couple of them. Going to be able to add really cool toolbars and all sorts of stuff. If you guys want to see that, just leave a comment below. You can make a pretty full-featured type of a text editor if you'd like to, just completely inside of here, just using everything right off the shelf. So I'm going to get rid of this background information we have right here, and I'm going to change this into a stack panel, and let's close that off. And then we'll go rich text box. That's the only option that pops up. We're going to give it a name, and it's going to be rich TB. And I'm going to define the height for this to be 200. You're going to be able to use spell check with this. So I'll say spell check is enabled, and we'll mark that as true. And context menu is going to allow us to right click on this rich text box that we have here and then do like copy and paste and all that stuff. So we're going to put that inside of there. So what we're going to do is we're going to say whenever it opens that we want to call a function that's going to make everything work here. And we're going to call this guy rich tb underscore and context menu opening. So let's just copy that guy right there and paste that in right there. Click right here and it's going to automatically create this for me. Is it? Is it? I don't know. Maybe not. And we'll just copy that and then close that guy off like this. And all of the editing is going to be done inside of a flow document. So flow document, you're going to use flow documents every time here. And we'll go paragraph. And inside of this paragraph, I'll say something like you can edit me. Good enough. And then after the rich text box, let's say I'm using a stack panel. So let's say I want to throw some buttons in here that will allow me to both save as well as open files. Can do that, of course. So I'm going to say button, and whenever it is clicked on, I'm going to call a file called, or call a function called save RTB content, rich text box content, and we will have save beyond that button. And let's copy this as well, and we'll do open down here for this guy, open, and we'll put open on the button right there, and you can see it's going to pop up there on the screen. And then we just need to make these guys work over in the C# code. Now, to make the context menu pop up whenever you right click inside of that rich text box, and remember the context menu, what it's going to do is display the option to cut, copy, or paste. What we need to do is go private void, and let's go and grab that function name because I forgot what I called it. Let's come over here. There it is, rich, this guy right here. Paste that inside of there. And this will be the rich text box that is going to call this, and then issue or information about this. Context menu event args, and we'll just have this be E. And then inside of this guy, we need to do some things. So the very first things we need to do is convert the sender into the rich text box that we know that it is. I'm going to call it RTB is equal to, and then we'll go sender as rich text box. And I want to make sure that there's information inside of it. So I'll go RTB equal to null. And in that situation, we'll just exit out of our function. There's nothing there. Then we want to create our context menu. You'll see what it looks like here in a second. So let's just call this context menu equal to RTB and context menu. And what we're aiming to do is have this guy show up to the right and below wherever you right click at inside of the rich text area. So RTB. And this guy right here is actually going to place this in the situation where we want it. So context menu and placement. And we're going to have that be placement mode relative point. And you're going to use the same thing every time because it just makes sense. Then I want to place the menu to the right of that click, like I said before. So text pointer position is RTB selection and end. We want to make sure that this was not given the value of null, so we'll go position equal to null in that situation. Well, not nil null. In that situation, we'll just exit out of here once again. And then we need to create our menu. So we'll go rectangle position, rectangle is equal to position, and we'll go get character rect, logical direction forward, and then we'll set the placement for our context menu based off of that information. So horizontal offset is going to be equal to the position rect X. So right where we clicked at it whenever we created this guy, wherever we right click with our mouse, context menu again, and the vertical offset is going to also be equal to that, but in the Y direction. So position rect in the Y. So it's the X and Y for wherever they right clicked at inside of our rich text area. And then after we do that, we can go context menu. We could set it for open to show that this event was properly handled. And there we are. And why don't I just go and do the open and save part of this also so that we can check out everything all at one time. So save RTB, what did I call this guy? Save RTB content. We'll copy this guy, come up here and paste that in there. Let's just go and copy all this right here and paste that in there just to save ourselves a little bit of time. But this is going to be routed event args. So routed event args. And then to save a document, what we need to do is define the range of text that we're going to save. And how you do that is with text range. And let's just call this range equal to new text range. And we'll say rich text box document content start. So we're going to start from the beginning, copy everything until the end. So rich text box documents gives you every option known to man. So we're going to go from the beginning to the end, so content end. Then we need to create a stream to write to the file, and here we'll just use a file stream in this situation. Call this fstream is equal to new file stream, and then we have to define where we want it to go. I want this to go in a C directory, and we have to do 2 backslashes to cancel those out. So I'm going to go users and Derek Banis, and the directory I want to save into is called C# data, and test and XAML is actually what we're going to be saving here. And the file mode we're going to be using here is to create the file, so we're going to use file mode create if it hasn't already been created. And then to save it, we just say range and save, and we reference the stream, and the data format means that this is going to be a XAML file here. And then after we do that, we can close our stream. So we'll just go stream close, and there we are. So that's how we can save that data. And we're also going to want to be able to open files. So we'll come in here once again, and we will say open. We can use everything else. We're going to have to define our range once again. So text range like this. And we're also going to need a file stream. So file stream, and I'll just call this fstream again. We want to verify that the file actually exists. So we'll say file exists. And then we're going to paste in the same file that we have right here. So verify all that, paste it in. And if it does exist, then we're going to say range is equal to new text range. And we're going to, of course, go from the start to the end. So let's go like this, which is go and copy this guy again. Copy. And there's our range. And then define our stream equal to new file stream. And we'll go and get our file once again. And we'll be using the file mode of open or create. And then we just call range and load and pass in the stream that we're referencing here. And data formats, we have to define that it is a XAML once again, because that's how everything's saved. And then, of course, after we're done with the stream, we have to close it. All right, so that's a lot of stuff we're learning here. So let's run this. Oh, there was a build error. Okay, there's no use running it. It's saying there is a closing bracket that's missing. Let's come in here and see if it's easy enough. Let's just go like this. There you go. And let's run it. Ah, there's another error. Whoops, change this to save, not save. And then this guy down here, I probably did the same thing. Open save. Yeah, I just want to change this to open. All right, run it again. Little bugs creep in, it's crazy. And we can check out our rich text box, click on it, and you can come in here and edit this, of course. Do whatever you want. If you right click on it, this is going to open that context menu. Remember I showed you before. Paste in whatever information you want to paste inside of there. We can save this. We can come out here and delete all of it, and we can say open, and you can see it's all back. All right, guys, so there is an insane amount of information about the document API that's available to you. Like I said, there are toolbars and a whole bunch of other different things you can explore, specifically with RichTextBox. And I hope you found that useful, and like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.